Back to the Swedish, and I'm still here looking at the Memrise app. One of the good phrases, somebody might say, "How are you?" and you could respond with "Jag mår bra, jag mår bra." I feel good. And these are the things. I know I'm looking these up because they don't come naturally yet. I've only been doing this for like a week, 2 weeks maybe, and getting really into it. But you might want to ask somebody, "What's your name?" Vad heter du? Vad is what, heter name, you, what name you, is pretty much the direct translation. But what's your name? Vad heter du? See how it's the Swedish sounds so similar to the English when you get into it. And if somebody asks you, vad heter du, you would say, "Jag heter Steve." And you'd go on like that. So these things, I'm really enjoying. I've never learnt a language before. I don't speak, only just about speak English properly. So I've never learnt any other language at all. So when I was at secondary school, the sort of that 2-year period before you get to 16 and go on to further education or whatever, I didn't. You have those language lessons, don't you? And usually they used to be back in the late 60s, early 70s. They more likely be French, but for some weird reason we had German, and we had a young, attractive female German teacher. She was English, I think. I'm sure she was English, but it was a boys' school, all boys' school, and I think the most I learnt was to count to 10 in German, and I think maybe I could count to 20. I think I could probably, if I rack my brains, I could probably count to 20 in German. But after that, we were such a boisterous set, about 30 of us, 14-year-olds, pumped up with testosterone, completely, almost uncontrollable for what might have been a, I don't know, 20 early 20-something teacher. How was she going to control 30, 14-year-olds? I don't know. And it wasn't, it wasn't a great experience. So the class got cancelled, and we never I think we had to go and sit and read instead. No, there was no other German teacher, so they didn't know what to do. We just sat and read, I think. So I've never learnt a language. And Spanish, getting into the Memrise thing in Spanish, I started to learn quite a bit there. I wasn't doing enough, and just as I started to learn, I had to go into hospital for a bit, so that was more difficult. But now I'm up here, feeling well, diet's going really great. I'm not eating any fried stuff, so that's it's all sort of fairly what I would call clean food. Fresh vegetables, fresh meat, fish, that sort of stuff, pasta. There's the thing, pasta is the same word in Swedish, pasta. They pronounce it differently, pasta. There's a more emphasis on the A's and stuff like that. The language is more broken up in terms of words. The words don't flow. They get very, very definite, like pasta. it's that sort of sound, rather than the English would say pasta. More emphasis on the P, I think, rather than the A. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I am learning. As I say, I'm using this Memrise app, and there's a very good thing. It goes through what's called a speed review, and I'll just show you. I won't do it, but I'll just sort of do that. It comes up, gives you a timer, and then you get a word up there. And the first word is pasta, and you have to press the button, crisped knäckebröd, and cheese is ost. So you can learn pretty good cooked meat. So see, I'm getting kickling chicken, right? Pork is flask. Beer is ull. Butter smør. Yeah, so you can do those sort of things, and it really good. It does push the words into your brain, and those sort of speed reviews sends you emails as well. There is a free version. I've paid for this one because you get the extra bits and pieces, and you can download the language, and you can go further into it. You only get a certain amount with the free version, I think. So it's a yearly subscription. I think it's worth it because it really is very good indeed. As I say, I'm going to keep on keeping on with the Swedish language, and let you know how I get on. But the point I'm making here really is that if you go travelling, you shouldn't really, if you can possibly help it, rely on your English. When we went down to Spain, it was quite difficult because we first stayed at Benicassim, and although we were trying to speak Spanish to the people on site, they would reply to us in English, even though we wanted to learn Spanish, we wanted to get some words, and it might have been difficult. I think it was just easier for them to speak to us in English because we might not have understood the Spanish. So that was quite difficult, but I didn't have the Memrise app then. Since I've got that, I'm able to learn much more, and it is quite good. Unless you're, I think the way it's been is if you try to speak the language, people are much more forgiving and they'll help. If you just assume everybody can speak English, they can be quite resistant. So that's something to remember. And certainly the French are very much like that. If you go to France and you try to speak French, and even using Google Translate, if you're not sure, and then trying to speak the French language to the French people, they sort of appreciate it, and then they'll sort of muddle through with you, and there'll be a lot of and all that sort of stuff, and you can get by. But lots of nationalities are appreciative if you can try at least to speak their language to them in their country. I think it's just polite, don't you? Anyway, I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and share this video on social media. Thanks again. See you again soon. Bye-bye.